Oh, what is going on, everybody?
Hello.
It is the Pixabarters here.
You don't
welcome
say.
back to the Great Ace Attorney 2, when we left off. We're over here talking to Mikotoba, because we're learning all this stuff in the past. Yesterday was a trip into the past.
Yeah.
About Genshin Asogi saving
A lot of
life,
theorizing going
and
on.
then a lot of theorizing. Tobias is apparently, supposedly, potentially part of the organization that is the actual Reaper.
As the tactician.
As like the ringleader that constructs everything to make it all happen. But right now we're going to talk about the favor that he was trying to tell us about before. So
When they first arrived here, yeah.
So you mentioned a favor that you'd like to ask me.
They meaning him and Judge Jigoku.
Well, this fateful trial as you're fighting. That fateful trial. Okay.
Yeah.
Let me restart this again. Well, this fateful trial that you're fighting, one way or another, will be over before long. And when it is, I'd like you to accompany me back to Japan.
Huh?
You want me to do...
What? But father, what's the meaning of this?
Now, Susanoo, you should understand. You've seen how our courts work firsthand. Japan's judicial system is in its infancy, especially when it comes to defense.
Oh, you mean...
The Supreme Court of Judicature, whatever the fuck it is in desperate need of a good defense lawyer. As soon as possible. Really quite urgently, in fact. But I've not even been in London a year yet. I've read all Susanoo's reports. I'm well aware of your extraordinary talents. And having seen you in action with my own eyes earlier today, there's no question. You, Naruto, are precisely the man our country needs.
So, you'd be leaving then, Ryu? But then, what am I supposed to do, father?
You came here to serve as Asogi's judicial assistant. Oh yeah, she's supposed to be Kazuma's assistant. Our governor's still in the process of deciding how best to deal with his situation, though. You've always chosen your own path, Susanoo, and I trust your judgment. In this matter also.
Father!
Please, the pair of you, don't look so downcast. It's merely a suggestion, you understand? I hope, if I'm honest. But I won't force you. All I ask is that you consider it, and come to a decision by the time this trial concludes. Yes. All right.
Huh. Oh, you won't leave, will you, Ryu?
The thought hadn't even crossed my mind. Up until now, I've just been trying to do what I believe to be Kazuma's will. But it turns out that he's still alive, so... where does that leave me?
Great, now we have an existential crisis.
Da-da-da. Well, if you'll excuse me now,
Thanks for that.
I need to telegram government ministers and the Japanese police with this information about Asashin.
Of course, father.
Oh, Shin. Fuck.
Thank you. Yeah, it's Shin.
You're welcome. I look forward to next month's installment, Miss Wilson.
Oh, good! And please, do come to Baker Street sometime, won't you? We'd love to entertain you. And she's got this violin that sounds beautiful.
I would be delighted if I don't die. The best of luck for tomorrow, Naruto. And give my suggestion your full consideration, won't you? Yes, I will. Going back home?
That seems fishy. You know, Kazuma-sama has always meant a great deal to my father.
It's like there was someone else who was forced to go home, wasn't there?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sure he'd love the chance to meet with him and talk to him about all of this.
Yes, no doubt.
Of course,
It's so obvious.
Oh, I knew it was you!
How can I make this possibly good for now?
Hi, hello! Jesus Christ!
Mr. Holmes!
Holmesy, where have you been?
I've been stalking you for about 5 days.
God.
Why, I joined you all for tea, of course. What an extraordinary question.
I didn't notice you at all.
No matter, no matter. Anyway, 2 more pressing concerns. Mr. Naruto? Oh,
He's just been on the wall in the background.
like a spider.
Just holding tea.
I must dispatch a telegram to your country at once. It's a matter of much urgency. To Japan, you mean? Tell me, to whom can I entrust the task? Quick now, who?
Well, my father has just now left to send a telegram to the Imperial Police Bureau of Japan himself.
I see. Well, he looks reliable enough for a bearded fellow.
What does that mean? I don't think what father sports could be considered a beard, Mr. Holmes.
That's not a moment to lose. I can't ask your trusty unshaven friend to see father to see this is sent.
I will, but what is it?
No questions at this time, if you please. Miss Susanoo. Go, run along. All we can do is pray that for once, my deduction is awry. Doesn't that imply that your deductions are normally correct, Mr. Holmes? Which isn't exactly now then.
Oh my god.
You'll be surprised to learn that I am a very busy man. I certainly have no time to hide behind settees and eavesdrop on other people's conversations.
So that's what he was doing.
So that's what joining us for tea meant?
He was hiding.
I leave the sending this into your hands then, my dear fellows.
Jesus, he's gone.
Wait a minute, Mr. Holmes. He's gone like a bat.
He just sort of ran off, didn't he? At quite a pace.
Left the unpaid bill for his tea behind, too. It's expensive here.
I must catch up with father at the telegraph office. At once. And no one didn't call us a cab. Straight away. What?
And there was me thinking everyone would be clamoring to pay Mr. Holmes' bill.
It's always up to the Naruhodo family to pay for everyone's bill.
Yeah. Well, the only thing I can do is move.
Glances at Phoenix having to pay everyone's bill all the time.
In some ways, this place seems to rather suit Lair Visit. Oh dear, did I say that out loud?
Oh, Susanoo!
I don't know if I should go over there yet. Maybe now we can go visit, because it's saying we haven't visited for some time, so maybe Mr. Vigil's there finally.
Yeah.
And we can get some answers. Now that we're alone.
Oof.
Oh, you're with me again.
This is the war where Mr. Vigil was brought, apparently.
To be frank, I'm a little worried about seeing him again.
Hi, buddy.
The lawyer. Hello again.
Are you feeling better now, Mr. Vigil?
Yes, thank you. Somewhat better. I'm so sorry to have caused you to... I mean, it was because of me. If I hadn't exposed your secret and forced you to remember things you'd obviously tried to forget. The prosecutor was here until a few moments ago, too. You just missed him. Oh! Cosmo beat us to it. He said much the same as you. I was very apologetic. But the truth is, I brought all this upon myself. Please don't think like that.
Vogue.
Keeping it from Evie, my wife, all these years, I've carried such a sense of guilt. But that's not the worst of it. Over time, I obviously came to deceive myself as well.
You mean about your dismissal?
Looking back now, I'm beginning to think that perhaps Inspector Gregson didn't stumble across me by accident at all. I mean, he compensated me so generously for acting as his stand-in. He was clearly concerned for my well-being and doing what he could to help. So perhaps Gregson knew exactly what had become of Mr. Vigil all along then. I'm sure this is just desserts for 10 years of lies and deception, but it wasn't me that helped Professor escape 10 years ago. It wasn't me. I swear it. I swear it's true.
Okay, dude. Oh, Mr. Vigil.
I'm sure you'd rather not dredge up even more from your past at this time, but if possible, could you tell us exactly what really happened? The thing that's making you freak out? Can you tell us in words? I want to. I need to get all this off my chest. I just want someone to tell me what I should have done. Well, I think we need to have a chat then.
Do we have
conversation.
the thing that Holmes gave to
It did not
Suzuto,
go in the
or-
evidence.
Okay.
It was literally just handed off. Like when we tried to ask, he was just like, nope, just take it right away.
So it was just a note. That
So
just,
it's something
all
secret that
right.
we don't even get to see right now.
What is Sherlock doing?
I don't know. Like, one thought that I had of is that maybe the message isn't important, but it's seeing if it goes overseas. Because, I mean, we have to remember that the note that the telegram that was deciphered from that frickin' disc in the music box of the first game, like that's how that Morse code came through. That was written in Japanese. That was Japanese Morse code.
Yeah.
Which means a Japanese person wrote that note. And we know that Mikotoba knows a lot about stuff because Mikotoba's the one that stopped Suzuto with the Hounds of Baskervilles, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So, to have the, like, actually, doesn't he have the Hound of Baskervilles actually? Wasn't that the fact that Mikotoba has the Hound of Baskervilles because Suzuto read it in Japan? That's how she knew about it.
Well, she didn't read it. She saw the title.
Well, that's because she found the manuscript.
Yeah.
That was in Japan.
Yeah, that's right.
And Sherlock is the one that took the manuscript from Iris.
Yeah.
Now, then he said he pawned it off. If that's true, I have no idea. But all this is going to come floodgating out in these two cases, so...
Like, Sherlock is hiding things.
Oh, he's been hiding things for a while when
Since
it comes
day
to
one.
this case. Anyways...
Like, he seems dumb, but he's not dumb.
No.
Like, he's not. He really isn't.
Gregson's request. Inspector Gregson was obviously engaged in a special operation of some sort. He was investigating something that even Scotland Yard couldn't know about. Details of the Reaper's marks, yes. It was when he had to carry out those investigations that I would take his identification and impersonate him. Pretend to be the inspector and carry out investigations on his behalf?
Jesus.
Oh no, never. A common street peddler couldn't possibly carry out proper police investigation. All I would do is go to the specified location and make a little hoo-ha. Just something to leave an impression so everyone there would think a detective called Gregson was here.
So, that's what you were doing on the day prior to the incident?
Yes, he asked me to make an appearance at the park on Lime Street for the Red-Headed League event. So as usual, I flashed the inspector's identification around and was very vocal about my presence.
But then you were taken prisoner by those red-headed fraudsters.
Yes. So you would always make a point of showing Gregson's identification generally being loud?
In other words, forming an alibi.
Yep. That's what the inspector asked me to do, yes.
Well, that's one way of becoming a legendary detective, I suppose. Not a good one, though.
And as you know, I suffered this bruising around my neck at their hands. But the following day, they kept their word and released me. Without returning the inspector's identification to you, though. However, he had arranged to meet in the Fresno Street room at 5 that day so I could report back to the inspector. But at the agreed time, that's when I heard the gunshot. Huh. The prison escape. The stuff of legend.
Yeah.
It was at midnight on the 17th of June 10 years ago. That was the time scheduled for the execution. But the possessor execution never actually took place, did it?
Or rather, the execution itself must have been used to effect the plan of escape. I hardly dare to imagine what a chilling plan it was.
I'll tell you. Barclay was renowned for being the highest security prison in the country. Everything that went in or out of the place was searched multiple times. But there's one notable exception. Or rather, one notable loophole. Something that was never questioned. The morgue! I have a feeling I know what that loophole was now. The coffins into which the bodies with the execution convicts were placed, correct? Yes.
Kind of close to the morgue.
Once the coroner confirmed the death of a condemned convict, the body was taken in its coffin for immediate burial in Lowgate Cemetery just behind the prison. Chief Warder first had to sign the necessary papers. And after that, no member of staff was permitted to touch the coffin containing the body again. Okay! The plot thickens once more!
Oh boy.
So, the person who was helping at Barclay Prison at that time in the morgue was Mikotoba.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it?
It was. He said that he worked with the coroner at Barclay Prison. That's what he was doing when he was there.
We also learned details about that from Scottish dude.
Is that the one who said it? Because
Yeah.
I thought Mikotoba said it
Caden.
himself, but no, we did learn it from Caden. Mikotoba didn't say that. Caden said it. That's right. Which means Mikotoba just went, nope, he's alive. Or he's dead. Yeet.
Yeah.
But then someone who knew shot him in the graveyard anyways when he was trying to come out. Oh my god. Did I read that part? Yeah, I read that part.
Yeah.
That's a stiff face from you.
Yeah.
When executions took place, the executioner and the coroner were permitted inside the chamber. I'd wait in the adjacent room for word that the condemned convict was dead. On that occasion, inside that confirmation, went to the mortuary to find a lone coffin, as usual. But there's also a chance that, well, we don't have her profile anymore because Scythe, the other coroner.
Sith, yeah.
Because she also had some fishy business too, so she could have been involved at the same time. Can't remember because her profile's not here anymore, so don't know what her age was 10 years ago. Anyways.
I'm pretty sure it's there. We don't have it anymore? I thought we did.
No, that was only in the last one. We don't have Sith anymore. Yeah, no Sith.
Oh.
Do you think
What?
think there's a chance?
What are you doing?
It's a small
what are you doing
chance. Do you think there's a chance that Toby's not dead? Because the coroner fudged the time of death. Do you think there's a chance he faked his death?
Like Asogi? Like what happened with
Well,
Asogi?
Asogi didn't fake his death.
No,
that was kind of done afterwards. But more along the lines of the professor. Because, I mean, we don't know much about this Maria Gori. I don't know if that was the... Because remember the, like, sister or whoever that was also
That's
joining
true,
Sith in
because when we
there?
went there, his body wasn't there anymore.
No, we only have the picture with the blood spill. We know they can't test blood in this day. They don't have anything to test if the blood's if
it's human or
his
not.
So...
But what reason would he have for being off the grid like that?
That's a great question. I don't know.
Unless it's to, like, you know, protect himself from being killed.
I don't know. But there could be some fishy business going on.
I don't know, man.
Anyways.
I don't know anything anymore.
The procedure was that I would sign the paperwork.
You're making me question everything and everyone.
Because I'm questioning everything and everyone. I'm questioning fucking Ryu at this point. And I am him.
I'm just like, Sherlock is the professor. No. God.
But for some reason that day, the coffin was already nailed shut.
No.
Interesting. I didn't think anything of it at the time. And so my deputy must have checked the coffin and nailed it shut before I arrived. So you mean the coffin contained... Yes, I can only imagine that Asogi, having escaped his execution somehow, was alive inside the coffin. The coffin was then taken out through the main gates and deposited in Lowgate Cemetery.
Presumably there wouldn't have been enough air inside to breathe for long.
So in the early hours following the burial, somebody dug up the coffin again to get Genshin free. To set Genshin free.
But in the end, he was fatally shot in the graveyard anyway. What on earth really happened in Lowgate Cemetery that night, I wonder?
That gunshot is still the big mystery that could be the key to it all. I'm afraid I really don't know. All I can say with certainty are two things. Asogi couldn't possibly have escaped that way without help from somebody working in the prison. And that somebody was not me. Somebody in the prison. The plot thickens! Oh, I lost my headphones.
Jesus.
I dedicated myself to the bit there.
You shook your head way too much.
Because, I mean, if it's going to be someone in the prison, like if you're going like prison side, wouldn't that implicate?
No, it's someone working in the prison, he said.
Yeah, so... But... I don't remember what his status was at the time, because he wasn't the governor back then. Was he? No. Was he? No. Was he? No.
Because, I mean, Mikotoba wasn't really working in the prison.
Exactly.
He was a visiting student, just kind of like...
Yeah, he was a visiting student in the morgue.
He was studying abroad there.
Yeah.
That's all he was doing.
The only other person we know that
he
works
wouldn't be
at the
allowed
prison,
to touch actual, convicted people's bodies.
The only other person is Barry.
Yeah.
That was working at the prison. I don't know if he was the governor at the time or not. I can't remember that part, unfortunately, because we've had a lot to try and fucking remember. Yeah, the convict Asogi. Okay. Obviously you knew the man then. The professor, I mean. Genshin Asogi. Yes, I remember him well, in fact. Would you mind telling us what you know? Well, having been condemned to death as he was, any contact I had with the man was short, obviously. After that trial, which was carried out behind closed doors, attended only by elite members of the judiciary, they called for his execution to be carried out at the earliest possible opportunity. The outcome of the trial was set from the beginning, wasn't it?
It was a time of delicate diplomacy when Britain and Japan were in the process of signing an important treaty. That meant this potentially destabilizing case had to be dealt with swiftly and discreetly.
The man had less than a week in total. As I was the chief warder, I oversaw this short stay in the cells until his final hour, Mary being struck deeply by his noble character and incredible resilience. What do you mean exactly? He was a killer of many men, but he was always quiet and polite. He was a gentleman and a man of intellect. In fact, I couldn't bring myself to believe what he'd done, so I asked him one day, "Those 5 members of the aristocracy whose lives were taken, were you really responsible?" "I'm guilty of the unforgivable crime of ending another man's life. Yes." The following day, the closed trial took place, and the verdict was no surprise.
See, that could mean many things.
Yes, there's a reason that he gave that kind of worded answer.
And he said, "a man."
Yeah.
Like, ending a man's life doesn't necessarily mean literally killing him.
He could also, in a way, be talking about himself. Because if he decided to choose to be the scapegoat as well, if say Mikotoba, Goku, and all of them were in cahoots, if he chose to be the scapegoat, then that would be choosing to end his own life. So he could just be saying, "I ended a man's life." Yes, because he ended his own life. He was on death row at that point.
Yeah.
So that could also be true. Guilty.
But he could also just be like, "Oh, I, totally ruined someone's life somehow," or whatever.
That night, when he was brought back to his cell, I saw something unusual. Something unusual? What? Spit it out. Tell me. Give me the tea, sis. The last will and testament of Genshin Asogi.
Huh?
Now that's a juicy read that I need right now. As I said, it was on the night following his trial, after he'd been found guilty. I was doing the rounds of the cells when I looked into Asogi's. I noticed that he seemed to have a sheet of paper in his hand. His last will and testament, then, presumably? As soon as he noticed me, he hurriedly shoved it behind his back.
But why did you find that so unusual? Isn't it normal for a man to pen a will when he knows his death is nigh?
Yes, that's true, but there were special conditions to Asogi's incarceration, you see. What sort of conditions?
Yeah.
Well, even though he was held in a cell designed for condemned inmates, he was allowed to keep his personal effects with him, with one exception. Really? He was allowed his things? That is unusual, certainly. Of course, he being victim to killing 5 members of the aristocracy. At the same time, he was a guest in our country from the Empire of Japan. The powers that be were determined that his final days shouldn't be needlessly uncomfortable.
And what was the exception you mentioned to the personal effects he was allowed?
That's the point. He wasn't permitted to have writing materials.
Oh.
Secondly, no pens or paper.
So, he was prevented from leaving any written record of what had happened to him?
Yes, that was the long and the short of it. I have no idea where he obtained the paper. Any writing materials would have been confiscated from him upon his incarceration. As I said, he had the papers behind his back and then he pleaded with me. What did you just hide behind your back? Please. Please turn a blind eye. This is my lifeline. But, you know, it's against the rules. You're the only person who's seen. If you just agree to keep quiet. Alright then, what's on that paper? A last will and testament. This will is the only weapon I have left now. Interesting. The only weapon he has left. How can a will be a weapon? So I decided to pretend I'd seen nothing, and I let him keep his will. But then later, it just seemed to vanish without trace. What? What do you mean it vanished?
It would seem that isn't the end of the story of this mysterious will.
It appears will was a note that I handed to someone, I would assume.
Yep.
I was the only person who saw Sogi's will, but somehow it disappeared. It was after Sogi's execution.
Which was actually an elaborate jailbreak.
The warders gathered up Asogi's possessions that were in his cell. They're all to be sent back to his family home in Japan, you see.
To poor Kazuma-sama.
And you're saying that it wasn't anywhere to be found among his personal effects? The will, I mean. That's right. Though I didn't search through them myself. The Governor Caden was living, he was screaming. It can't have this big that he's a drunk fuck.
He's not drunk, he's Scottish. Wait.
That almost sounds the same.
Doesn't quite
way.
make sense though, does it?
You ever been with the Scots? In what way?
It's mostly like the Irish
I
people
know.
that are... And they don't like each other, so be careful. Well, we'd understood that only Mr. Vigil was aware of the will's existence. In which case, how did the prison governor know to look for it?
Well, yes, you're right. I really don't know how he knew, but it certainly seemed as though he knew of the will's existence from the outset. Only he didn't refer to it as a will. What he said was... the Asogi papers. The Asogi papers?
Weird.
I really can't tell you anything of the subsequent events. Because, well, of what happened. Your dismissal and the way you blocked it all out from your memory.
Yeah.
I've forgotten all this until today. I don't suppose it's relevant to the case, though.
Bro, it is.
Well, anyways, thank you very much for sharing it with us, Mr. Vigil. We're very grateful.
Any information is relevant right now because we don't know what the fuck's going on.
Still a lot of questions. I'm afraid there's really little more I can tell you. My Phoebe will be here shortly. So I do hope I don't appear rude, but...
Get the fuck out.
No. Not at all. Thank you again. I'm sure I'll hear it from 5 miles from here.
But what will become of you now?
Well, impersonating a police officer is a criminal offense, of course.
Yeah.
I imagine that once I'm fully recovered, I shall be arrested.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. Don't be, please. It was all my own doing. I always knew that this day would come. Well, I wish you well. Goodbye, Mr. Vigil. We'll meet again. Don't know how to...
Jesus. What?
Before you go, there's just one thing. Oh, yes? What is it? The Asogi papers. Huh? I'd be very grateful to make no mention of the things I told you before them.
About them.
Presumably for some good reason? It's my understanding that their very existence is a closely guarded secret.
Oh.
If it became known that I'd remembered...
Oh.
Well... it could be rather troublesome, I think.
You think you'd get got?
I understand.
You'd get bodied, dude? Is that what you're saying?
A body has been discovered!
Oh, God.
Some sort of will that Genshin Sogi penned just before his death, which the man himself claimed was his last weapon. I wonder, perhaps it had something to do with his plan to escape. If there's anyone who might know about the document that Cosmo's father left behind,
It would be Mr. Vigil's governor! Then we know precisely where we must go. Back to Barclay Prison.
Ah yes, to talk about the papers that we were told to not talk about and say it directly to the governor himself.
He's just like, oh no.
How could that go wrong? I guess we'll find out next time, but holy shit.
Yeah.
Boy, we've had a lot to take in the past couple days on this one.
It's a lot to process.
Holy moly.
I can't even...
So Gregson is apparently part of potentially...
It's kind of
the
like
whole
trying to figure out who the
fucking-
Yatagarasu is all over again. It's more than one person.
This is much more complicated than Yatagarasu.
I know. I mean, this
Holy
is like
shit.
the Yatagarasu on steroids.
This is such a well-crafted and slow-burning mystery. I love it, and I'm dying. Ah!
Dear God.
I need more.
No, we don't need more. This is already enough to try and just digest.